Hello, I'm Takoija, and welcome to the video. Today, I'll be covering what the best weapons are against the wall of flesh, but before that, I would like to explain why I have not uploaded anything in a week. Basically, I was like, hey, I'm having spring break, so I will just do absolutely nothing. And I did. But enough of that, and now on to what the video is actually about. So first, the weapons that are good, that are absolutely terrible, meh, and just obliterate the wall of flesh. So first off, for weapons that are absolutely terrible, I have the entire melee class. Let's see. I'm just going to cover this as briefly as I possibly can. I might actually make a dedicated video to how bad melee is against the wall of flesh. But basically, the Knight's Edge, just melee weapons in general will give too much risk for too little reward against the wall of flesh. See, melee weapons just don't have enough range to counter for the ridiculous damage that the wall of flesh can do up close. Like the wall of flesh can kill my endgame character with 500 health and around 45 defense in under a second if I just if I stand still. That is way more damage than most hard mode bosses can do to me. This is because of the wall of flesh's weird tendency of its mouth doing 81 contact damage, which is usually what you're going to end up hitting with melee weapons. And basically, you don't use melee against wall of flesh ever unless you are specifically doing a challenge playthrough that requires you to go melee. Okay, now for our second category, meh. I shall show you some weapons that are pretty meh, that are serviceable weapons against the wall of flesh. First off, I have the Phoenix Blaster and the Mini Shark. These basically do the same thing. It's just that the Phoenix Blaster is a bit better at doing the same thing as the Mini Shark. See, this is because, basically, the Phoenix Blaster does a bit more damage per second, while the Mini Shark has a bit more reliable damage, just because of its faster fire rate. So next, one more thing. These weapons are completely unable to deal with the hungry, so the reason these weapons are in meh and not in death to waff is basically just because they're bad at dealing with the hungry. Okay, next, for what's also in meh are the Beanades, for pretty much the exact opposite reason of the Phoenix Blaster. They are very good at dealing with the hungry, but I don't really see them doing that much damage to the actual boss. This is because the Beanades are really good at crowd control, but when Waff moves too fast for most of the bees to catch up, so they don't end up doing damage. I'm not rating weapon combos, but if you want to just completely obliterate Waff, one of the actual ways is to use the Beanades to quickly deal with the hungry, then just bring out a Phoenix Blaster and do some ridiculous damage to the eyes, to the point where you just obliterate it. But I'm not rating weapon combos, and that is why that is not included. Next is the final category. Oh, wait, no. The final category is not there. Sorry about that. No, now see, the melee class is very bad against the wall of flesh, with a single exception, and that exception is the Flamerang. See, the Flamerang is very suitable of its category because it's a pretty mad weapon against the wall of flesh. At long range, it gets around 70 to 50 damage per second, and at close range, it gets a more impressive 120 to 130 damage per second. But you do not want to get that close to the wall of flesh, so basically the Flamerang is pretty much the only decent option against the wall of flesh if you really want to use melee. But don't use melee against the wall of flesh. The Flamerang is the only decent weapon against it. Next, and also meh, is the bee gun. It's basically the same thing as basically, it's like, hey, what if we made bee-nades a magic weapon? And they did. Next and meh, is the imp staff. See, the imp staff is really the only summon that you can use against the wall of flesh, because it's really the only, like, late pre-hard mode summon, and it's pretty meh against the wall of flesh. It's just your only option if you're going for minions instead of whips. But speaking of whips, in the next category, Death to Wolf, we have the Spinal Tap, because when it is paired with Obsidian Armor, it becomes one of the best weapons to deal against Wall of Flesh. Yeah, so remember how I said that bee-nades were good against dealing with the hungry? Yeah, not the Wall of Flesh itself. The Spinal Tap is just that, but it's even more ridiculous against the hungries, and it's actually good against the Wall of Flesh itself. Okay, so next, for Death to Wolf, I have the Hellwing Bow. The Hellwing Bow is pretty simple. Use this with some ranged armor, made like a decent sized hell rail, kill the wall of flesh. As long as you actually avoid the attacks, this will be one of the highest damage summon weapons you could possibly get. Wait, no, this is just the best ranged weapon. Wait, no, this is just the best weapon against the wall of flesh. It's just the best. It will obliterate wall of flesh. I don't know why, since it has pretty average DPS, but maybe it's because of the bats, I don't know. Well, it's just really good against the wall of flesh. Next in Death to Wolf, I have the Water Bolt. Even though it's the last one included in Death to Wolf, this is really the worst out of all of the Death to Wolf weapons against the wall of flesh. But it's still in Death to Wolf, so this weapon is still ridiculously good against the wall of flesh. It's good at dealing against the hungry, and it's good with dealing against the actual wall of flesh part. And, well, that's really all that's about it. So, I guess that's all I have to say for today. If you liked the video, subscribe. If you feel that I should have included other weapons in there, leave your opinion in the comments. And also, if you're insane and you think melee is good against wall of flesh, which it isn't, it's really terrible against wall of flesh, you will die. The main reason that first-time players find wall of flesh so hard is because most of them just end up using melee against it. Because it worked for everything else, it's gonna work for this one. Because it won't, leave your opinion in the comments. And, well, this is Takoish, signing out.